Antiochus VI honors Jonathan. Later, Trypho returned and had with him the young boy Antiochus, who put on the crown and became king. All the troops who had cursed Demetrius gathered around him. They fought against Demetrius, who was put to flight. Trypho then captured the elephants and gained control of Antioch. So Antiochus the younger wrote to Jonathan, saying, I confirm you in the high priesthood, set you over the 4 provinces, and you will be one of the king's friends. He also sent him gold cups to serve him at table, and gave him authority to drink from these, to dress in purple, and to wear a golden buckle. He then established Simon his brother as general from the ladder of Tyre to the boundary of Egypt. Then Jonathan departed and journeyed beyond the river and in the cities. The entire army of Syria gathered around him as allies. When he went into Ascalon, the people of the city met him and honored him. From there, he left for Gaza, but when the inhabitants of Gaza shut him out, he besieged the city, set its surrounding fortifications on fire, and plundered them. Thus the men of Gaza pleaded with Jonathan. He made peace with them, took the sons of their governors as hostages, and dispatched them to Jerusalem. Then he traveled through the country, going as far as Damascus. Jonathan also got word the officers of Demetrius had arrived in Kadesh in Galilee with a sizable army. They intended to oust him from office. So he set out to meet them, but he left his brother Simon in the country. Then Simon positioned himself at Bethzur, and for many days fought against it and blocked it off. Then the people begged him for peace, and he granted it to them. So he cast them out from there, took possession of the city, and placed a garrison in it. Now Jonathan and his soldiers camped by the lake of Gennesaret, and rose early the next morning and marched to the plain of Hazor. Then behold, the foreign army met him in the plain and set up an ambush against him in the mountains. But they themselves met him face to face. Then the men in the ambush rose up from their places and joined the battle. All Jonathan's men fled. None of them remained except Mattathias, the son of Absalom, and Judas, the son of Chalphi, commanders of the armed forces. So Jonathan tore his garments, poured earth on his head, and prayed. Then he turned back to the battle and put the enemy to flight. When Jonathan's men who had run away saw this, they returned and joined him in the pursuit of the enemy as far as Kadesh, and there they set up camp. As many as 3,000 of the foreign army fell that day. Then Jonathan went back to Jerusalem. Friendship renewed with Rome and Sparta. When Jonathan saw the time was right, he chose envoys and sent them to Rome to validate and renew friendship with them. Also, he sent letters to Sparta and other localities for the same reasons. So they left for Rome, entered the Senate chamber, and said, Jonathan, the high priest, and the nation of the Jews sent us here to renew the former friendship and alliance between ourselves. Then the Romans wrote letters to the citizens in every place, so they might send forth the ambassadors to the land of Judah in peace. This is the copy of the letters which Jonathan wrote to the Spartans. Jonathan the high priest, the elders of the nation, the priests, and the Jewish people to their brothers the Spartans, greetings. Some time earlier, letters were sent to Onias the high priest by Arius, who ruled over you, that you are our brothers, as the attached copy indicates. Onias received the envoy with honor, and he accepted the letters, which plainly showed the alliance and friendship. Therefore, although we do not need these things, since we have the holy books in our hands, we have decided to send and renew our brotherhood and friendship, so we would not be estranged from you. For significant time has elapsed since you sent word to us. Therefore at every opportunity, both on feast days and ordinary days, We remember you unceasingly in the sacrifices we offer and in our prayers, as it is right and proper to remember, brothers. For we rejoice in your glory. But many troubles and many wars have surrounded us, and the kings around us have fought against us. We did not wish to trouble you and our other allies and friends with these wars. For we have had help from heaven assisting us, for we were freed from our enemies, and they were humbled. Therefore we chose Numnius son of Antiochus and Antipater son of Jason, and sent them to Rome to renew our former friendship and alliance with them. We also ordered them to go to you, to greet you and give you these letters from us concerning the renewal of our brotherhood. Now then, please send us a reply. This is the copy of the letters they sent to Onias, King Arius of the Spartans, to Onias the high priest, greetings. It has been put in writing regarding both the Spartans and the Jews that they are brothers, and are both of the family of Abraham. So now that we know this, please write us concerning your welfare. Thus we are writing to you that your cattle and possessions are ours, and ours are yours. Therefore we order our ambassadors to report to you accordingly. Campaigns of Jonathan and Simon. Then Jonathan heard the officers of Demetrius had come back with a larger army than before to make war against him. So he marched out of Jerusalem and engaged them in the area around Hamath, giving them no chance to invade his country. So he sent out spies to their encampment. They later returned and told him the army of Demetrius planned to attack the Jews at night. At sunset, Jonathan ordered those with him to stay awake and to be ready with their weapons for a fight during the night. Then he sent out an advance guard to surround the camp. When the enemy got word that Jonathan and his soldiers were ready for battle, they were terrified at heart. So they lit fires in their camp and fled. But Jonathan and his men did not know this until it was morning, for they saw the fire light. So Jonathan chased after them, but could not overtake them, because they crossed over the Eleutherus river. Then Jonathan turned aside against the Arabs, called Zabadenes, and struck them, and took their spoils. He then broke camp and marched to Damascus and throughout all that country. Meanwhile, Simon went out and marched as far as Ascalon and the fortresses nearby, and turned aside to Joppa and captured it. For he heard they wished to hand over the fortress to the men sent by Demetrius. So he established a garrison there to guard it. When Jonathan returned, he assembled the elders of the people. Together, they decided to build fortresses in Judea, and to make the walls of Jerusalem even higher, and raise a great high wall between the citadel and the city to separate it from the city, so it would be isolated and its garrison could not buy nor sell goods. So they assembled to rebuild the city and part of the wall on the valley to the east that had fallen. Thus he repaired the wall that is called Chaphenetha. Simon also built Adidah in the Shephelah. They fortified it and set up bolted gates. Jonathan captured, troops killed. Then Trypho sought to rule Asia, to wear the crown, and to stretch forth his hand against King Antiochus. He also took precautions lest Jonathan would not permit it, but wage war against him. So seeking to capture and destroy him, he marched forth to Bethshan. Then Jonathan went out to meet him with 40,000 soldiers chosen for battle, and he came to Bethshan. When Trypho saw that he came with a large army, he was afraid to stretch forth his hand against him. So he received him honorably and met him with all his friends. He gave gifts to Jonathan, and ordered his friends and his own troops to obey him as himself. Then he said to Jonathan, "Why have you troubled all these men? We are not at war. Now send them home, but choose a few soldiers for yourself to be with you. Then come with me to Ptolemy, and I will give it over to you along with the rest of the fortresses and the remaining troops and officers." Then I will turn around and go home, for that is why I came here. So Jonathan believed Trypho, and did as he had said and sent away the troops, who departed for the region of Judah. But he kept 3,000 soldiers with him, 2,000 of which he left in Galilee, and 1,000 who went with him. But when Jonathan entered Ptolemais, the men of the city shut the gates and captured him, and they slew with the sword all who entered with him. Then Trypho sent soldiers and cavalry into Galilee and the Great Plain, to kill all Jonathan's men. But when the soldiers learned that Jonathan and those with him had been captured and killed, they encouraged each other to keep marching in close formation, ready for attack. But when the pursuers saw them ready to fight for their lives, they retreated. So they all came safely to the land of Judah and cried out for Jonathan and his men. They were exceedingly afraid, and all Israel mourned greatly. Then all the nations surrounding them tried to defeat them, saying, There is none to lead them or to help them. Now then, let us wage war against them and erase them from memory. Notes from the previous page. 11:67-74 The foreign army was from a conglomerate of tribes trying to take advantage of the struggle Jonathan faced against Demetrius.